Hello and welcome to the first lesson of Quick and Easy Holiday Cards, my holiday card making series for 2011. If you have any questions about this lesson or any of the future lessons, you'll be able to see a full rundown at my blog at brittaswiderski.com. Also, as of this lesson being released, the ebook for this course is also released on my blog at brittaswiderski.com/shop, where you'll be able to download a PDF book of all pictures and instructions and supply lists for all the cards that I'm making, plus a bonus card for each tutorial lesson, and an extra tutorial with 3 bonus cards. And all of the bonus cards will have videos, so you get 6 bonus videos with the ebook. It's a really great deal, so just go over to my blog to find out more. But let's get started with the lesson for today. Today we're going to be using this stamp set called Decorate Your Holidays from Hero Arts, and it's just a really great functional Christmas stamp set to have. So I wanted to base the 3 cards for today off this stamp set. And the whole goal of this card series is to give you lots of ideas for easy, simple cards that you can make multiples of. So I've gone through and thought about all of these, and hopefully you can see that they're pretty feasible to make multiples of. So if you wanted to make 5 different types of cards and make 5 of each, you'd have 25 cards. Or you could just choose one pattern and go with that. But hopefully this will give you the inspiration you need to get started with your holiday cards. And yeah, so I hope that you enjoy this series. So let's get started with the first card. This one I'm going to be doing a little bit of clear embossing resist. So I want to take this ornament, the solid one, and I'll get this on a block. And I'm going to stamp it on pattern paper and then ink over it with some really dark reds so that the pattern paper really shows. And so you could stamp and emboss these all at once, and when you're making this card as a multiple, and you could really just do it in steps, which is a really big part of doing holiday cards. So I'm just going to emboss an ornament on each one of these pattern papers, and I'm trying to conserve pattern paper because I know I want to do lots of cards with this pattern paper pad. So I'm going to do it kind of in the corner of each sheet. And I'm just going to stamp these cards in the Versamark sticky ink, and that will go perfectly with my clear embossing powder. And then now that I have my clear embossing powder on these, or my embossing ink on them, I can add my embossing powder. And now I'll just heat it with my embossing heat gun and just go until it looks clear and there's no more graininess to the powder. Now that we have our images embossed, we can definitely see where they are. So I'm just going to cut them out of this cardstock, leaving a, probably 1/8 of an inch border around the outside, and I'm just rough cutting them right now. We'll go back and cut them nicely after we're done inking them, because you'll be able to see the edges a little bit better. So now I have my craft sheet out here. This is also from Ranger, and I'm going to use some barn door distress ink and fired brick distress ink, and I'm just going to go over preliminarily with the barn door, and this will give it a nice highlight, and then the fired brick will be what really makes this shape stand out. Okay, and now that I have the entire thing covered with barn door, I'm going to go in with fired brick just around the edges. I'm not really going to get it in the center, but the edges will really, this darker red will just really make it pop. And the cool thing about doing this on pattern paper is that each pattern paper takes the ink a little bit differently, so you have a really cool sense of variety around the ornaments. So it's just a really fun thing to do. So now I'm just going to really clean off this embossing by getting this t-shirt, this old t-shirt wet, and then going over the embossing and wiping off that extra ink. And now they're ready to cut out. So we're just going to go around the lines and leave about 1/8 of an inch of border around the outsides of the ornaments. Alright, so I have my shapes cut out, and I just actually added a piece of baker's twine around the edge, or around the top here, as you can see. And it's just a little bow, but you could definitely forego this if you were making a ton of them. And this color is Maraschino by the Twinery, by the way. And before I adhere my ornaments with some foam adhesive, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. And I'm going to use the sentiment, the Decorate Your Holidays with Happiness sentiment from the same stamp set. I'm just going to open up my card, set it down on my work surface, ink up my stamp really well with the Memento black ink, and then stamp right down here in the corner. Alright, so now that I've stamped my sentiment, I always make sure to do that first because I'd rather waste a piece of cardstock than the entire card. And next I'm going to put these on my card. I think I'm going to put them right about here, here, and then one up here. And I just want to make sure, I want to have strings of twine going up the card. So I'm just going to cut 3 that are about as long as my card, because you can always cut them down later. And then I'm just going to use my foam adhesive. You see I have a narrow piece and a big square on the back of these ornaments. I'm going to use the foam adhesive just to adhere down the twine. And you can always place them kind of in place and then adjust them as necessary. And that's what's great about this foam adhesive, is that if you don't press it down too hard, it doesn't ruin your card if you try to pull it up. So we're just going to place the twine behind the ornament, press down. So now we can just flip these to the back. Just try to make them straight on the front of the card, and then carefully flip it over. And then you can add a piece of pattern paper just to hide those tails. And then you can just trim off the rest. And you can even tuck those underneath that piece of pattern paper. But just hold it down. And there's our first card. So nice, clear, emboss resist card. So let's get started on our second card. Alright, for our second card, we're going to be doing some more embossing, only this one's going to be white embossing on some of the pattern paper from the stack, or from the pad. So this is the navy paper that's included in the pad, and it just has a slight distressing to it, but you could use regular navy paper for this. And then I'm also using some of the green paper, and that's where I'm going to stamp my sentiment. It's going to be like a little hill in front. So I'm just going to stamp that in the corner, and then I can cut out the hill from there. So on the top of this thing, by the way, I just used my embossing magic from Inkadinka-Doo, and it puts down a fine powder that helps the white embossing powder not stick anywhere it's not supposed to. And we're just going to stamp some snowflakes around here, making sure to rotate the snowflake stamp. And I like to work in little triangles, so you see 1, 2, 3, there we go. And they can be, you know, irregular triangles. And then I'm also going to stamp my sentiment while I'm at it, and I'm just using the same one that I used before on this card. So now I'm just going to use my white embossing powder and just scoop some up here and then shimmy it down my cardstock. And then you can just tap off the excess. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my sentiment. Now I'm just going to heat it, just like I did the last one, until the graininess is gone in the embossing powder. And if you have any embossing powder that's stuck and you didn't catch it before you melted it, you can always go back with an X-Acto knife and at least knock some of it away. It'll be a little bit less obvious. So now we can go ahead and cut out our little hills. So I'm just going to freehand it and cut a nice little hill down this way. And this one will be in the front, obviously, because it needs to show off the sentiment. And then from the other corner, I'm just going to cut in like this, and this will go behind the other one. And I'm just going to ink the edges with a little bit of peeled paint, Distress ink. Not even going to bother to get out my blending tool because it's just so little inking. But this really helps finish off the edges and make them look more complete. And I'm also going to grab some Spice Tin Jenny Bolin ink and use my blending tool to ink around the edges of this navy piece, just to really finish off the edges on this as well. And it just makes it look one step more done. And I also just have an obsession with inking things, so it helps me fulfill that. So now I have my card base ready. Here's my white piece of cardstock. I'm actually going to apply my adhesive, my ATG, directly onto my cardstock because I know I just inked the edges of my blue piece, so I know I'm not going to want to be maneuvering that around too much on the white piece, otherwise it'll leave blue marks. So we're just going to center this as best we can and press down. And then you can add this bottom piece down here. I'm going to use more ATG adhesive. And then you can kind of size up this one, and it looks like it's going to need to be cut off a little bit over here. So I'm actually going to move this one up because otherwise it won't show very much. And then I can go ahead and cut this one off, ink that edge, and then adhere it down with my ATG again. So here you have a nice, clean and simple card using some white embossing and these gorgeous distressed solid colored papers. So let's move on to our third card. Alright, so I'm ready for my third card here, and I'm going to stamp this Merry Christmas sentiment across the card and then add some circles of pattern paper, which I've already cut out with my Spellbinders dies. This is the large set, I believe, of circles. And so I've punched those out and then cut a couple just in half or in parts arbitrarily, so I have some options when I'm putting them on my card. And I'm just going to eyeball this, try to get it in the center and like right around the bottom third of the card. And just press down. And so now I can start putting down my circles. I'm going to use this adhesive right here from Plus and just kind of go around the circle. And I'm going to create kind of a line that outlines the Merry Christmas. And so that would be perfect there. And so I'm just kind of freestyling this one. It's not going to be exactly perfect, but it's all about, this is funky and it's a great way to use up pattern paper scraps, especially if they're Christmas colors. So I'm just going to speed this part up where I just place everything so you can see what I'm doing. And so I've added all my circles to my card now, and so I can go around, kind of flip it over, and then just trim off the excess, because I wanted the circles to go off the edge of the card. And this just creates a nice clean edge. Alright, so now I'm just going to round the corners, because I think that would be a nice touch on this one. I'm going to use my 1/2 inch side. And there is our third card. So here are all of our 3 cards together for this one, using this awesome stamp set, Decorate Your Holidays from Hero Arts. So this wraps up lesson number 1. There will be a bonus card for this lesson and a bonus video that shows you how to make that card if you purchase the ebook, which is on sale at my blog at brittaswiderski.com/shop. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you again next time on another lesson of quick and easy holiday cards.